Hello YouTube, and thank you for joining me today. Another episode at Gary's Place. This is Gary's Place. Welcome. Uh, so today I'm going to do a video. It's another Sunlu S8 3D printing video. Um, Today we will cover the setup and installation of the Sunlu S8. In future videos I will show you guys how to get some better prints out of it. As right off the bat, you're probably going to be a little bit frustrated, just as I was, trying to get this printer to properly print. I do have quite a few tips, tricks, and things that you're going to want to change in order to accomplish that. So for today, I guess let's get started on the setup. Okay, so here we are at the machine. This is our Sunlu S8. See Sunlu. Now, in order to put this thing together, it's important to know that the top frame needs to be installed with 2 screws up underneath here, and 1 screw on this T-bracket. When you get this unit, it will be in 2 pieces. They are still connected because all the wiring has been done, but the top frame will be zip tied to the bottom frame. You'll need to cut those zip ties. There'll be 3 on each side, and then we get to installing the bolts. A small note about the bed: you will want to remove the glass from the bed. It is held on by these paper clips, and once you take those off, the bed just slides free. Now, I was not expecting this bed when I purchased my machine. I was expecting a clear piece of glass. This tinted piece of glass has a smooth side. As you can see, I've got a little scratch going there. A little worse than I thought. And then we have a textured side. I don't know if you can see that too well, but this is nicely textured. Works very well for adhesion. The textured side does go up so that the print sticks to the textured side. Was a little confused by that because in the advertisement when I purchased mine, it showed a clear piece of glass, but this was a very welcome piece. So we'll set that aside. Okay, so now we have the machine on its side. We can see a little bit better at what we're dealing with here. So there are, you can see that there's 1 screw there and 1 screw there. You go up into this extrusion. This is the top frame. Here's your T-bracket. We have these 2 screws come installed with the T-bracket already in place. All you need to do is install that 1 screw. All 3 of these are installed with the Allen keys that come with the machine. That would be these here. A little baggie with pretty much all the ones you'll need. I would suggest buying a new set, as these are kind of cheap. And if we look at the top, we also have the exact same setup. Okay, so very simple. One thing to note is the wiring here. Okay, so we have this wiring. I'm going to make sure all of that is out of the way. And down here, this motor, when I first installed it, I did get this wiring loom stuck underneath the motor, which obviously shimmed it up and caused me a bunch of issues. So be very mindful of the wiring when you put this thing together. Now, the other reason that I flipped this over on its side is because of these. This is the bed. No, I've got the printer on right now. So this is the bed. It runs on these 2 extrusions on these wheels. Now, the 2 inside wheels, this wheel and that wheel, let me get a little close up here. Get in there. So there is a centric right here in order to adjust the wheel to get the whole carriage here tight. Both of the inside wheels have that centric nut. And you can use the provided little wrench here they give you to tighten those. Now, mine were loose when I got it. Let me flip this back on its front and then I can talk about that. So, when this was new, I could take my bed here and it would have some slop side to side. You can push in, push back, just kind of wiggle the corner back and forth. And you'll notice that there's some play there, and that's how you know that those centrics down there need to be tightened up. Also too, it's really a good idea to go ahead and go through the entire printer and check everything is tight. They do not give you all of the Allen keys that you will need to tighten these up, but anything that you have or any Allen keys that you have, I would make sure every bolt is tight, as there were quite a few loose ones on mine. Now, just like the bottom, these run on the tracks. They have the 3 wheels, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. On the inside ones, there will be this nut. That is eccentric, and if you turn it one way, it'll either pull the wheel closer or allow it to release and come farther away. You want to make sure all these are tight, but not too tight. You need to make sure that you have a good motion, like so. So it has to move nice and smoothly, okay? On the hot end, there's one right there. Okay, so that's part 1. So now we have the 2 pieces put together. I would suggest checking your belts after everything's tight, after you make sure these don't have any wiggle. Like for instance, if you grab this, you shouldn't have much play. They gotta be snugged up. Snug, but not too tight. So we have our first belt right here. It should be kinda tight, like mine's loosened up a bit. These belts are kinda cheap, I may end up replacing these. Now if you want to go the extra route, all of the belts they installed backwards. This should be zip tied with the ribbed side to the rib side. That way you know that the belt is not going to come loose. I figured I would wait till I replace the belts to address that, but if it really bothers you, you can get some slop back and forth, as if these zip ties are not holding this tight enough, that belt will loosen up, which I do seem to have an issue with that. In order to tighten this belt, you loosen these 2 screws, and then you have to pry, or you can probably just pull it with your fingers as tight as you can outward to tighten the belt, and then tighten these back down. My suggestion, loosen these, tighten them till they're almost tight, then put the tension on. That way you'll just have to snug it a touch in order to get those where they need to be. Your other belt down here, now this was another issue that I had when I purchased it. This belt was rubbing on this bracket. It was not even on the pulley, and I didn't realize it at first. So, to tighten this belt, it has a huge adjustment here. So you can see that. Got the little slot nuts. You'll need to use a wrench and an Allen key. You can loosen the 2 of these, and then mine I had to align it. So once these are loose, you can back these nuts off just a little bit. This will slide back and forth once you take the tension off of it, but it needs to be straight in line with the motor, which is, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, all the way down there. I think mine's just off a touch, but it works for now. So we also want to make sure this belt is nice and tight, okay? And to do that, you will tighten these. Now, you want to make sure you tighten them evenly, And you want to make sure that when you move this back and forth, that this pulley, or this belt, is straight on the pulley, going all the way down. And you can accomplish that by tightening this nut and loosening that nut to twist it that way, or vice versa to twist it the other way. And that you have to make sure that this pulley is running straight, or the belt is running straight on the pulley. Takes a little back and forth. It is kind of a pain, but it is doable. So after you've got all that tight, so just to go over everything we did here, we put the top frame on, attached it to the bottom frame. We've checked everything's tight. We've checked that all of these extrusions have tight wheels. We made sure that all the belts were tight. Now, the next thing is to make sure that this extrusion that the x-axis runs on is parallel with the bottom frame. Okay, so I did this with the machine running. Makes it a little easier. So there was one thing that I haven't touched on that I probably should have when we set this up. I took a square, and when I was done installing this top frame to the bottom frame, I put the square in place, okay, so you can see. And what I did was I loosened the two lower bolts here just ever so slightly, and then loosened the nut here on the T-bracket on both sides. Put the square in to make sure that the top frame was square to the bottom frame. Just took a little tweak, a little tighten, then I came over to the other side, then I went back and rechecked this side just to make sure. That's how you make sure the top frame is square with the bottom frame. Now, I also use this tool to make sure that this extrusion is parallel with that extrusion, and I'll show you that here. So to move this, we'll go to Prepare, Move Axis, Z-axis. I'll do 1 millimeter just because once we get close I would need to do 1 millimeter anyways. So up we go. I will note that the Z-axis does not move properly unless you auto-home it first. That's why this started so far down, was because I had to auto-home it in order to move the Z-axis. I'm not sure if that's a Sunlu problem. I'm not sure if that's something you just get with 3D printers. We'll get to about that height there. Okay, so a couple things to note. You will want to make sure that this is set up here exactly the same on both sides when you do this. So I found that with my square, it just perfectly fits right over the hole of this extrusion. You can see that, kind of just fits parallel right over it. Or, I'm sorry, perpendicular right over it. And then you also want to make sure that you watch out for this bracket. You need to be on the inside of the bracket. Just about like that. So then I will bring this down. Down. Slowly. I watch it the whole way just to make sure nothing interferes. That's the belt there, so it'll compress that right in there. Okay, so now that we're really close, I don't know if I got a whole millimeter. Let's give this a shot. I did. Okay, so now we're right here. Now you have your choice. You can eyeball this. I'd say that's just about touching. Then if we come over to the other side, we will need to move that x-axis over, so let's do that. Do this one a little faster. Just get that right out of the way. Now we can set this up here. You should be exactly in the same spot as you did the other side. Okay, and looks like we are just about touching there, so. I was doing this as a double check. I've obviously already had mine set up for some time, but that just goes to show you that these things stay where they're put for the most part. Obviously you want to do some maintenance and check it out every once in a while, but that's that. Oh, and it almost slipped my mind, just so you know, if the x-axis is not parallel to the base, so you used your square or whatever you use to measure the distance from here to here, from here to here, if it's different from side to side, what you need to do is you need to take whichever side and move it up or down. I'm not going to do it right now because mine's actually set pretty much perfect, so I don't want to ruin that, but you can spin each one of these individually. I believe if you spin it that way, you'll bring the x-axis down on this side, and if you spin it that way, you'll bring the x-axis up on this side. And that way you're just pretty much tuning this threaded rod to that threaded rod. Let's see right there. To that threaded rod. And that's what gives you a level x-axis. So now that that's parallel to that, the next thing you're going to want to do is level the bed, and I believe we will do that in the next video. So that, I think, for today is all of the setup. Once you get to here, level the bed and you can start to do some test prints. Okay, so we'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the content, have any questions, concerns, any videos that you'd like to see me do, please hit subscribe, put some comments down below. Always like the comments, and I will respond when applicable, and I'll give you guys whatever you're looking for. So thanks for watching, YouTube, and thank you for visiting Gary's Place. Goodbye.